Welcome back, everyone. It's going to be part two of episode four. So, at the end of the first the end of the first part of episode four, uh, we were kind of talking about Andy Reid, how he's super underrated. I think we got pretty much all our talking points, both games across. Again, we're going to save our Super Bowl preview for a bit later in the week. But for now, we're going to switch gears to the NBA. We're going to talk about the big trade that just happened with Luka. There's a bunch of guys, picks and stuff getting swapped, but obviously the two biggest names are Luka to the Lakers and AD to the Mavs. So crazy, crazy trade.
Yeah, broke late last night. Well, this morning, I guess if you're
Yeah.
12:13, probably about to be exact. But my buddy texted me and I thought it was a complete joke. I literally texted him. I said, shut up. I was like, shut up. Like, you're not gonna get me, right? Um, and of course, he was like, ESPN said this. Like, you have to believe me, all right? I went on my phone. I was like, all right. So I went on my phone and just immediately, like, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, I can't believe it, right? And the Lakers, right? So if you look at their front court right now, it's looking like Luka and AR 15, right? So you have guys who don't play defense in the front
Yeah.
court, or is that technically the back court? Is there something like that? But
Um,
you know, point guard and shooting guard right now are technically guys who really lack defensive, effort. And then you have LeBron, who, superstar, and then you have who is it now? It's Dorian Finney-Smith and
I just saw the
yeah, it's not Hayes, right? Is it Hayes now?
I think so.
Maybe it's Jackson Hayes, but
They're
like
probably gonna make some more trades, I imagine, though.
they really should because they need another big. Like they really do need another big. Because defense is lacking, rebounding is lacking. They really need to get another guy on that team because that de on the defensive end, I could see them giving up a lot of points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Mavericks, with this trade is, man, that was a little shocking. It seemed like they were pretty concerned about Luka's health, calling him basically, fat, pretty much. They said I mean, basically they just traded him because they thought he was, I don't know, out of shape, and he gained pounds this past couple months of whatever he's been doing with the training staff, and they see him, having low key of like a little bit of a Zion effect or something like that. So along the lines of that, I don't know. Maybe there was something inside the, I don't know, organization that they thought like they could fix or whatever. But I mean, if you look at that team now, it's Kyrie, Clay, Anthony Davis, uh, you know, who, I mean, who's the other guy? PJ Washington, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this team is it actually doesn't look that bad, but it also kind of looked better with Luka there. I mean, Luka took you to the finals, literally took you to the finals last year, and he was injured last year too. And that whole team was banged up last year. And I mean, I'm a Thunder fan. I'm a diehard Thunder fan. I think this helps us a lot. I mean, I'm pretty excited. I think that's one less of a contender in the West. I think was it 7 games ahead of the second place team so far right now. Maybe
I
6 or 5 or something like that. But
I know it's Houston,
yeah,
but I know you guys are ahead by a good amount of games.
yeah. And
My guy, Ime.
I don't see Houston as a problem. I think they're gonna be one of those teams that like, they kicked up during the regular season, but I think they're gonna fade out by the end of the season. Um, I don't know. It's crazy how this trade happened, but yeah, what was your
Yeah.
thought?
Well, I was shocked, but I just looked up projected starting five. So Mavs, you get obviously Kyrie, Clay Thompson, or as I call him, Mid Thompson,
Yep.
PJ Washington, obviously AD, and I Gafford. So actually, that starting five is actually a pretty good, solid starting five. Maybe some size issues with both AD and Gafford in there, but obviously AD's can shoot the ball, space the floor out a bit more. Their bench is in rough shape to say the least, though. Uh, Apparently they're not done trading though. That's what all the rumor mills are saying now. On the Lakers side,
They shouldn't be done
obviously,
trading either. They should
Yeah,
not be done. They should not be done trading because there's a lot more to fix on this team.
yeah. Um, you obviously you get Luka, LeBron, you got Austin Reeves, you got Hachimura, which is Roy Hachimura capable of, consistently starting, putting up good numbers with the rest of those guys. That's the question there. And Jackson Hayes, kind of the same thing with him. So the Lakers, their bench, they actually have some decent pieces. They have Gabe Vincent on the bench still. Friggin' tortures my Celtics in the conference finals, and then just gets hurt and like barely even plays with the Lakers now. So honestly, both teams, their starting fives actually see. I think the Mavs. Eh, okay, both starting fives actually are pretty good now that I'm like looking at it on paper. Obviously, LeBron and Luka alone probably make up for, you know, the other starting five maybe being a lesser compared to the Mavs, but both teams probably gonna be making trades still. Ron Palenka literally came out, and I think JJ Redick said it too. They were like, "Oh well, we make any trades, it's gonna probably be something just help the bench out, something like that." Well, I don't think this is a minor trade, so that's cap right there. It seems like Rob Palenka, just anything you say, he says you're just gonna think the opposite. Like he's told guys in the past he's gonna extend them, trades them, releases them. Just Rob Palenka, very shady GM it seems like. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you, I thought it was a joke at first. So I got the notification. It was from Bleacher Report. And I'm like, okay, well, Bleacher Report doesn't send out like fake reports. So I'm like, there's no. So I looked it up and there was nothing. So then I went on Twitter and I saw Lake Show with a Luka was trending. I'm like, there's no way. So yeah, I was in shock. It was actually a three-team trade with the Jazz. The Jazz got two picks and who the hell else did they get? Let me.
Jalen Hood Shafinko.
Yeah, yeah. Um, oh, here we go. So yeah, that's the Jet. Obviously, the Lakers get Luka, Kleba. Well, Kleba's actually a pretty decent bench piece. He just basically stands in the corner and throws threes up, but he's actually a decent bench piece. Then Markieff Morris, brother of my old guy, Marcus Morris in the Celtics. I love Marcus Morris. The 2 years we had him. That's actually two decent bench guys, even though Markieff like never plays. Obviously AD, the big name for the Mavs. Max Christie, a lot of potential for him. Then they get the Lakers first rounder. When this initially happened, I literally was like, what are the Mavs thinking? Like, I could not believe that they traded Luka. And normally in a trade like this gets pulled off, the guys' names are in the rumor mill. They're getting traded. At least I, have not heard anything about Luka or AD being like in trade rumors whatsoever. I mean, especially Luka. I thought he was like untouchable. Like you said earlier, Mark Cuban said that he'd rather like trade his wife than Luka. So
Mhm.
I guess his wife's on his good side now. But yeah,
Well,
I didn't know what the hell the Mavs were thinking at first, but like you just said, now there's reports coming out that they were concerned about like his cardio or what the hell was it?
defense
Yeah, his
too. Says defense.
conditioning, and
Yep.
that they weren't, and they had concerns about pain in the supermax. Then you just mentioned, so it's like okay, like maybe so, but it's like Luka was injured last year and he took you to the finals. Like still, this guy. I mean, I'm not a big Luka fan, but this guy is like something else. Obviously, he plays like no defense, but offensively, he's insane. But so it's like okay, maybe we can see that a little bit. But then you just mentioned AD, who they just traded for primarily, basically just swapped the two guys. The Lakers weren't going to re-sign him, so that means the Mavs are going to have to pay him. So it's like even more of a head scratcher that they're going to have to pay him. So I am just, I'm still in disbelief.
Yeah, and that's if he decides to resign too. Like that's if he does wants to stay in Dallas, you know. Which I think him and Kyrie Irving are decent friends off the court. So I mean maybe, Kyrie can win him over or like whatever with that. But another thing is I actually thought about this as a Thunder fan. Like, um, how good does that trade look that we dished out Paul George who had a shoulder injury for all those first round picks and Shea and Gallinari? Like we really fleeced the Clippers with that trade. From the Clippers perspective, everybody was saying, "Oh, the Clippers are, title contenders now because they got Kawhi from free agency and Paul George, but Kawhi said he would only go to the Clippers if Paul George went there, right? So the Clippers kind of looked at that trade as like a 2-and-2 team trade, kind of, you could say. So, Clippers were desperate. Ballmer decided to throw out all those picks, and it's looking right now, it's a big failure, right? So the Clippers took a big risk, and the Thunder have continued to rebuild this team, and it's not really a rebuild from what it looks like right now.
Yeah.
Last year, I was pretty disappointed with how the season ended against the Mavs because I wasn't really high on them, and I thought we could beat them, and we lost to them. But I think, looking back with all the assets we got, Sam Presti being one of the best general managers in the sport, I think we really fleeced that team. And this trade looks like a joke compared to what we got for Paul George, right? I mean, you traded Luka Doncic, right? Who's one of the best players in the NBA and some of the brightest futures that we've probably seen in a while, just from his scoring, from his playmaking, from his leadership, all this stuff. And just him being like a good, guy in the front of the media. And, those players don't come around that often, right? And when you're picking a top of the draft every single year, you can land them, but there's a lot of struggling that goes on in the draft, in the lottery and stuff to even get to that point. So they really landed Luka, and I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it because I don't know. Like those are workable things though. Like weight, defense. Like you can get a coach for that to kind of push the player to kind of exceed expectations with that. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I really don't. And for the Lakers, I mean, LeBron's going to end up retiring pretty soon, right? So we know that his time's almost coming to a close. You now have a new piece to build your offense around, right? And Anthony Davis, I guess he's a little bit younger, but he isn't really there for, the long term either. So I think it was good that the Lakers dished out Anthony Davis. They have a future star who they plan on retaining for the next couple. I mean, you look to retain Luka for the next what, 10 years? I mean, what is he around?
Yeah.
25, 26? For the next 9, 10 years, you probably hope, you could retain him and develop around him, which is what the Mavericks have been trying to do. But yeah, this took a turn. I mean, I don't really know how I view this trade. I think the Mavericks we're looking a little too close-minded with this trade. I think that they could have probably dished out a couple more offers and just seen what they could have even gotten for Luka instead of just hitting the panic button and, you know, just dishing them out. But I think we're going to see a lot of interesting trades this year because I don't think we saw too many trades last year from the trade deadline. But I mean, it's going to start ramping up very soon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I just am in disbelief that they traded Luke. Obviously, he's been hurt. He hasn't been playing, but still, that should not affect if you trade someone of his caliber or not. I like right now, obviously defensively, it's going to make the Lakers worse. Anthony Davis, who is kind of a beast when he's healthy. That's the problem with AD. I say always damaged, as Skip Bayless used to say. When Anthony Davis is healthy, he's a tank on both sides, but obviously he's a much better defensive player than Luka. So obviously you're going to take a dip defensively, but offensively, that's kind of a question too. Obviously, you got LeBron and Luka. LeBron, now that he's older, and really ever since they got AD back in 2019, he's been more of a facilitator, like kind of the second option most times scoring. So it obviously it's going to be an adjustment for LeBron losing AD, but as far as his role as like a facilitator, that's probably going to stay the same. But again, they're not done making trades probably, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do. The Mavs, I don't know, just I'm just baffled. Like you said, I think they might be a bit short-sighted. Like there's no way their only concern was cardio issues that we're getting this guy out of here. Like there must be a lot more to the story than that. And it's just I just can't believe they traded Luka. I will say though that like last year, you said you weren't too high in the Mavs. The way the media was covering the Mavs, if like someone knew nothing about the NBA and tuned in to like Sports Center or just what any sports talk show, you would think the Mavs win 82 and 0 and have the best team in the history of sports. And like everyone was picking them to beat the Celtics in the finals last year. I'm like, am I missing something? They were a 5 seed. We won 16 more games than them. We beat them. We swept them both games. We blew them out. Luka wasn't playing in one of them. We still blew them out. We had better stats in like every category, but everyone was picking them. I'm like, what am I missing with this team?
Yeah, no, the Celtics were the dominant, more complete team, that's for sure. It's just I don't really understand because I think it was that huge series that they had against the Timberwolves because everybody was hyping up the Timberwolves, with Anthony Edwards. Everybody's like, Anthony Edwards in the media, he's a clown. Everybody loves him. But like I think it was the hypeness of that Timberwolves team last year and how they just dismantled everybody in that run. And then they versed the Mavericks and then it just stopped. It was Kyrie, putting on a show. It was Luka Doncic putting on a show. And then they get into the, finals and they're burnt out. I mean, Luka was injured. There was just a lot of things going on with the Mavericks and you know, the Celtics have great depth. They have a great general manager as well, and they have a great front office. And that they prove to be why they're top of NBA every year because they just continue to compete, continue to build, continue to fleece trades like a lot of these times. And that's the thing about like the Celtics. They're a great run organization, and I think when you're when when the stakes are high, you look for a team that has the opportunity to, dismantle that hype train, right? So I think with that being said, everybody was picking, some people were picking the Mavs just because of the hype of the Timberwolves and how they just demolished. I think it was like what, 4-1, something
Yeah,
insane. I think maybe
gentlemen
4-1.
swept them.
Yeah, 4-1. So, they come into the Celtics, it's like, oh, they're gonna put up a good fight. I think I had the Celtics in six, but I think you guys got them in what,
But yeah, yeah, we
five or something
gentlemen
crazy like
swept
that.
them.
Yeah. So, I mean, injuries did hurt them, but man, I mean, a team that went to the Western Conference Finals last year just dismantled.
Well, and they brought back pretty much the same team. Obviously, they added Clay Thompson, but they brought back pretty much the same team. I think they're floating around like 500 now. Obviously, mainly because Luka's been hurt. So I, but again, I don't think it's like a panic move. Like, okay, like we might be stuck in the play-in. Anything can happen in the play-in, especially if you're a 9, 10 seed. You can just lose one game and you're done like permanently for the rest of the year. I don't think it was like a panic move in that because it's like you're gonna sacrifice Luka for one season when you're still floating around 500. Like you're gonna have to make another long finals run on the road as a lower seeded team. I just can't believe I just can't believe they actually treated Luka.
It's insane. It really is insane. And for the Lakers, like we said, like the future. I mean, the future looks even better now. I mean, you had older LeBron. This trade is going to go down along the lines of some of the top trades in NBA history. I think, of course, it was probably the Thunder trade with getting Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and getting rid of Paul George. I think this is also going to go down along the lines of the Celtics
Yeah,
like dream team with
the Nets.
yep, the Nets, yep. And then this will also probably go down. This one will probably be top three, top five because of just how big of a caliber superstar Luka Doncic is.
People are saying it might be like the biggest trade ever. I think that might be kind of caught up in the moment. I mean, you can make an argument, but I also saw a report that said the Lakers are trying to get Chris Paul. That would be interesting because obviously LeBron and CP3 are good friends. Chris Paul, I think he would definitely help the Lakers. He's what you're getting with Chris Paul in addition to like the player side. He's like a really knowledgeable guy. He's like a coach pretty much. Obviously, the Spurs are actually kind of under the radar this year. I think they're floating around 500 too. I think they're a couple games above it maybe. But obviously the Spurs are not going to be competing for a title this year. The Lakers, I don't think they'll make a finals push or anything. But the Lakers are definitely in a better position to do so than the Spurs. So Chris Paul is obviously old, doesn't have too much playing time left. So obviously he's going to probably would prefer to go to the Lakers with LeBron and now Luka. That'll be interesting to see. They can get CP3. I mean, I don't know what they'd give up really. They just have to give up picks because they do have some young players, but they can't really give up too many of them because then you're just sacrificing too much from your bench at that point. Especially if they do get LeBron and CP3, they're both old. Luka is really the only young starter out of the three of them. So
Yeah, if they're looking to pursue a guy like CP3, I think they need to give up probably what, two second rounders. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's really that much. I don't know how much more Chris Paul has left in the tank if he really wants to, pursue anything short term with a contender. But I think it'd probably demand a second round pick, maybe one or two second round picks for Chris Paul if they want to do that. But I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of everything's kind of just shifting, and you're going to hear a lot more in the very next coming weeks about
yeah,
and days about deadline. This deadline is going to ramp up very soon. You're going to see a
oh
lot
yeah.
more of these little trades like getting pushed through, but yeah.
I know, like that's we haven't had a big trade like this in a while. It seems like you were talking about there hasn't been really that many like major trade deadlines the past couple of years. Kind of just like you know like bench players getting traded, things like that. Honestly, like the last trade of like this caliber, well, actually not even it was lesser of this caliber. It was like back in 2018 when LeBron's last year on the Cavs and that team was just god awful, and LeBron had to like single-handedly carry them and they basically just dumped their entire roster outside of like LeBron and Kevin Love and just like traded like everyone. But yeah, this is just a
Yeah,
monster trade.
I think this is what the NBA wanted too, because with the record lows of viewership that we've been seeing this year, I think that this is going to revive a lot of the ratings. A big superstar going to a big market includes LA. Like you're going to see LeBron and Luka play together. I think you're going to see a lot of people tune in to watch these NBA games now.
Yeah,
Because toward the end of the year, NBA's, here comes the seeding, here comes, the playoff standings. It's going to get really, really interesting to see how these ratings probably shoot up from here. I mean,
yeah.
it's going to kickstart.
Well,
Adam
it,
Silver's probably smiling right now.
oh, I'm sure. Well, especially on the Lakers too. Obviously, the Lakers. Yeah, well, I think my team's the top franchise in basketball, but you can make an argument the Lakers are. If not, they're definitely number two. So that's just an added bonus. But yeah, I mean the Lakers. I think they're like 2, 3 games above 500. So they're just floating around. Probably make the play in. Maybe win their first round matchup. Actually, it depends who they play, but probably like the second round would be their ceiling with their current roster. Maybe. Um,
Yeah, but here's the thing too is if they verse a team like the Rockets who's inexperienced, who knows what could happen. I mean, this team, you just brought in a guy who went to the Western Conference Finals last year, a guy who's already won a couple of rings, and some solid depth from the Mavericks, So for the Lakers, I mean, they could really make a push if they really wanted to, depending on how the standings fell. They could really organize it to where they could line up and go for a little run against teams that haven't been in the playoffs that much. People were talking about my Thunder last year about how we're inexperienced and we're just a young team and all this and all that. But I think there's going to be something being said about, the Lakers making a big push for the end goal this year. And if they get the right matchups, I don't see how they can be stopped with LeBron in the playoffs and, that team pushing through. And, I wonder if Luka is going to be able to be, coachable with LeBron. I know that they've been very, Luka's looked up to LeBron for a long period of time, but, we're looking at you know, the future of the league and somebody who should know that against with a guy who is probably the best player of all time, right? In my opinion, he's the best player of all time. So I mean, man, it's it's really crazy how the Lakers kind of built this, and I think they looked at this and they said, "Screw the team right now because we just got an opportunity to bring in Luka Doncic, who's going to be here for the next couple of years, maybe half decade to a decade, we might as well do this trade and then we'll evaluate talent later." But for
yeah,
LeBron, I mean, he's probably excited to play with Luka. Luka's probably excited to play with LeBron. And man, let's see how the Lakers do this year. I would not. I do not want the Thunder to versus the Lakers in the first round. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just pulled up the standings. So actually, the Lakers are 9 games above 500. I That's a lot better than I thought they were. I thought they were only like 3 or 4. But they're the 5 seed right now. Obviously, we still get a bunch of time left. But the Nuggets are the 4 seed, so that would be the first round matchups. That would be the Lakers' nightmare playing the Nuggets. The Nuggets are obviously lesser this year than they've been in years past, but the Nuggets own the Lakers. They swept them 2 years ago to get to the finals when they beat the Heat. That was so satisfying. And then last year, they gentlemen swept them. So the Nuggets have owned the Lakers. Maybe the Lakers want to get revenge this year. I think the Lakers this year are better than they were last year. Um, so that would be an interesting first round matchup. But yeah, like you just said, talking about inexperience, I mean, obviously you got Thunder at 1. Last year, obviously, I think they got the inexperience factor out of the way. So now they're an experienced playoff team. The Rockets, again, they're the 2 seed right now. I think they have the third best record in the league. And they have some experience questions. The Grizzlies, they're not really inexperienced, but they're kind of just like floating there. It feels like obviously Denver, no inexperience there. The Lakers, Clippers, kind of an under the radar team, but Kawhi always gets hurt. Timberwolves, they've been playing a bit better, but just something's off about them this year. It feels like. Actually, the Mavs are sitting at 8 right now. So, yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is I know I just said I don't think the Lakers are going to make a finals run, but now that I'm kind of looking at it, you're just talking about it, they're actually in a decent position to do so. I mean, the Lakers are not a team you want to play in the playoffs, especially in the first round.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I don't want to run into LeBron at any point in the playoffs. So,
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Yep.
geez. But yeah, I mean, the East looks. I mean, East has always looked a lot more weaker than the West, but I mean, it seems like fi what is it? I mean, the Celtics are just running away with that. I mean, it really just looks like they're just the more dominant team everywhere. And I think they're, I mean, I think they're still probably one of the best teams in the NBA, just depth wise. I think it's either one or two. It's probably one, but I'm a Thunder fan and I can't say that. So, but I would probably go Celtics one, Thunder two, and then you have a whole bunch of like groupings of the West teams that are just right there. And then you have maybe the East team at like maybe six or seven. Like it's definitely stronger competition in the West. And that was the same thing like last year. But yeah, I mean, the playoffs they're coming up soon. I know it's gonna come up. It's gonna come up
I
pretty
know.
fast, and you're gonna hear a lot more. Now, right now it's like kind of like a foggy area right now because you have like some trades going on and stuff. But once that opens up, you're gonna see a lot of information coming out about seeding and all that stuff for the playoffs. So it should be pretty interesting to hear about it real soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I still feel fairly confident we're going to win these. Obviously, the Cavs are the top team in the East this year. They've been on a tear, and we have been like we started off hot. We were 21-5, I think if I remember right, 21-5, and then we've kind of just been like mid since then. We're what they're 34-15 right now. We're 6-4 in our last 10. We've kind of just been I don't know, like I don't want to say a championship hangover. It's like we're just kind of like skating by. It doesn't feel like these games mean as much, and they're kind of playing like that. It feels like. I don't care what the stats say. Defensively, we're one of the top teams. The fourth quarter, we have been absolutely horrible defensively all year. The fourth quarter, I think we have like the 27th ranked defense. It just seems like every shot our opponent shoots in the fourth quarter goes in. It's absolutely ridiculous. We've been playing a bit better though, even though we nearly just beat the Pelicans without DeJounte Murray just tore his Achilles, unfortunately, but we still barely beat them. Even the first game, we almost blew a bad lead to them. But I think we're in a good position to beat the Cavs. I guess you can make an argument the Knicks could make a run, but I'm not super high on the Knicks. And then outside of that, it's like Pacers, Bucks, Heat. Like I don't think anyone, especially the Heat, they're going to trade away Butler. It seems like I don't think.
Shambles right now.
Yeah. I mean, really, I don't think it's too realistic that any team outside of us, the Celtics, the Cavs, the Knicks, are going to represent the East in the finals. But the West, on the other hand, I mean, I picked Celtics Thunder in the finals before the year. I feel confident with that pick still. But the West, especially after this trade, that's a lot of questions about the West. I think multiple teams can win the West.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's funny. I'm gonna show you guys something, but I had a two pick parlay before
Oh boy.
this year on the NFL. I put this down on July 17th, 2024. Okay. And it was, let me see it.
Oh God.
The Chiefs and the Celtics to win the finals. A little sneak peek, but I had the Chiefs and the Chiefs and the Celtics to win the finals this year. And my payout's 550 to win 130. So I don't know. I'm rooting, but yeah, it's pretty funny how, the NBA just changed dramatically, just like that. Everything in the NBA is was kind of failing this year, including Adam Silver kind of getting people to watch it and stuff, like the views. But I mean, this is going to skyrocket. I think you're going to see the NBA really kick off in shooting and ratings. And I mean, everybody's posting about it. Everybody knows about it. We see live reactions of, people getting the reaction last night of the trades and stuff. But man, I mean, this is going to shape out to be a pretty interesting NBA season. That's been one of the more underrated seasons as well.
Yeah. And like I just said, Jimmy Butler's probably getting traded too. They can't keep him on the roster, so that's going to be interesting to see what they get out of that and where Jimmy Butler goes. They just had to lower their asking price because it was too high. Teams didn't want to trade him for that price. The Warriors getting a lot of attention for Jimmy Butler. They're kind of in a weird spot. They got off to a red hot start and they've been not too great since then. Uh, well, it's the Suns. They're a weird team too. Obviously, the God Squad starting five. You had Coach Bud over there, but they've dealt with injuries. They've been super inconsistent this year. Just yeah, a lot can happen this season. But, yeah,
Yeah,
you guys are up 6.5 games over the Rockets to the one seed though, so it seems like you guys should have the one seed secured pretty tightly.
yeah, yep. And Jimmy Butler. I mean, a guy who, showed up in the playoffs the last couple of years and just, I don't know. There's something about Jimmy Butler, I think, that kind of turns off teams from trading and pursuing him. I don't, I mean, he kind of caused a lot of damage this year with, not showing up at team meetings and, just being lackadaisical, you could say. It's just kind of, if I'm a GM, right, of Miami, or if I'm a GM of other teams, I wouldn't even consider Jimmy Butler really. I don't think he really fits the Warriors at all. I don't really, I mean, he's an older guy, and I know he has experience with like, playing with like Curry and like having fun with, whatever they've been doing the last couple years and, summer league and all that. But I don't see Jimmy Butler really fitting on the Warriors. I don't really know where he would really fit in. I mean, the Heat kind of built the team with him, with Tyler Hero and guys to help him out, like Bam Adebayo. So like he was in a good situation, Miami, but he doesn't see himself being like a long-term answer there. And I wonder how that's going to turn on like everybody in the Miami organization because I mean, what are they going to dish him out for? I don't really know what the value of trade like in trading him is going to be. So it's something to really ask yourself, like, where does Jimmy Butler really fit in? Like what team that you would say is like, oh yeah, like right there. Is it, pairing up with his former coach in New York in, with Tibbs? Is it, when he had him in Chicago? It's like there's so many things that I don't really know. I don't really know where Jimmy Butler fits in. I don't know.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. I know all about Jimmy Butler with the he's a Celtics fan. It's we friggin' play the Heat every year in the playoff. And of course he had to come out last year and say that, oh, I they would have been eliminated if I was playing. All right, buddy. Um that's another rant I'll have to go on in another video, freeing the ridiculous narrative that we only won because of the injuries. But yeah, wild NBA. season coming up, it looks like. A lot can happen, especially in the West. I think the Thunder are in a pretty good spot, though. But yeah, the Lakers could go on a run. Mavs, I feel like the Lakers, there's less questions, a lot less questions this trade compared to the Mavs. Mavs, I'm sure will make the playoffs, but Lakers, I think, are definitely better suited to compete for a title now. But again, probably both teams still going to be making trades. So, yep.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Think that's a decent spot then. What do we get? 2 minutes left. Any parting thoughts?
Uh, no, yeah. Super Bowl's coming up, so stay tuned. We'll have our preview on that pretty soon. And yeah, thank you for
God.
having me on. And Nick, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. God, Eagles, please save us. Fly, Eagles. I hate myself for saying this, but fly, Eagles, fly. As soon as Monday hits, though, I'm right back to hating that team. God, I hate the Chiefs. Yeah, we'll end the video here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed. As Dylan said, be on the lookout for our Super Bowl preview coming up in the next couple days. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Take it easy.